the morning started with silence, the kind that feels wrong, like a breath held too long. When I pulled up the loose floorboard in my old bedroom, the envelope was gone. $18,300. Every cent I'd saved from my mother's heart surgery fund vanished. My hands were dusty, my pulse steady. Not fear, not panic, just the kind of calm that comes when your worst suspicion finally confirms itself. Outside my door, I heard the sound of heels clicking and shopping bags brushing against each other. Then came a familiar hum, soft, careless, satisfied. My sister, Kayla. She had no idea that I was standing in the middle of my old room staring into the emptiness she'd left behind. No idea that something in me had just shifted from trust to something sharper. That floorboard used to hide my childhood secrets, candy, birthday notes, pieces of dreams. This time, it hid nothing, just air where love used to live. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Tell me your story in the comments below, because when betrayal hits close to home, silence hurts more than shouting ever could. And if you've ever had to choose between helping and walking away, subscribe. I've got more stories about family, trust, and what it takes to finally let go. From the outside, our family looked perfect. White shutters, fresh paint, a lawn that smelled like summer. But on the inside, calm was a costume we wore for the neighbors. Dad worked double shifts at the shipping yard. Mom graded papers past midnight. And me? I learned to earn what I wanted. Kayla learned that she didn't have to. She just had to ask loud enough. That day, standing in my old room, dust settling on my palms, I realized something. Love without respect is just an empty envelope, waiting to disappear. Kayla was born when I was 4. Back then, I thought having a little sister meant never being lonely again. She had this laugh, light, contagious, and everyone said she was the sunshine of the Pierce family. When she came along, everything shifted. Mom quit teaching for a year to stay home with her. Dad picked up overtime to pay for dance lessons and designer shoes before she could even spell her own name. At first, I didn't mind. I thought that's what big sisters were supposed to do. Share, protect, forgive. But somewhere between birthdays and the school recitals, it became clear that in our family, Kayla's happiness was the main event, and my sacrifices were the credits that rolled at the end. By high school, the difference was impossible to ignore. When I got my first part-time job at a diner, Mom called me independent. When Kayla quit her babysitting gig after one weekend, Mom said she's still finding her passion. When I bought a used car with money I saved all year, Dad said, "That's how we raised you, responsible." When Kayla dented it 2 weeks later, he said, "Accidents happen." It wasn't jealousy, it was exhaustion. The kind that builds quietly when you realize you're everyone's safety net, but nobody's priority. Years later, when Mom's health started slipping and hospital bills stacked higher than hope, I made a decision. I'd help. I always had. I worked overtime at the marketing firm, freelanced on weekends, skipped dinners with friends. Every dollar went into that envelope beneath my old floorboard. Each one a promise, a prayer, a way to keep my mother alive. When Kayla hugged me after I told her I'd covered the surgery fund, she whispered, "You're the best sister ever." And for a second, I believed her. Until I learned what those words really meant. The first clue wasn't the missing money. It was the perfume. Sweet, expensive, and foreign to our house. The second clue came from the trash bin. Crumpled receipts from Saks, Bloomingdale's, and a hotel in Miami. All dated the same weekend I was out of town for work. I didn't need to check my phone, but I did. And there she was, Kayla, smiling into the Florida sunlight on Instagram. Her caption read, Sometimes you just have to treat yourself. Treat yourself with the money meant to save Mom's life. I stared at the screen so long I stopped blinking. The anger didn't explode, it condensed, sharp and still, like glass under pressure. When she came home that night, she waltzed into the door in new heels, laughing into her phone. I stood in the kitchen, waiting. She froze when she saw me. "Oh, hey, you're back early," she said. "Yeah, conference wrapped up sooner than expected." Her eyes darted toward her shopping bags. "They had sales," she added too quickly. I reached for one of the receipts on the counter. "Saks doesn't do sales in July," I said. Color drained from her face. "You went through my stuff?" "Bathroom trash. Shared space." She tried to recover, her tone swinging between guilt and defense. "I just borrowed a little. I'll pay you back. You make good money, Rachel. It's not like you'll miss it." "Borrowed," I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. "You borrowed Mom's chance to get better?" For the first time, her eyes flickered, not with remorse, but fear. She was used to my forgiveness like it was furniture, always there. But that night, I didn't raise my voice or cry. I just said, "You'll need to explain this to Mom and Dad yourself," and walked away. That night, the house was too quiet. Even the air felt heavy, like it knew something sacred had been broken. I sat on the back porch, the same spot where Dad used to drink his late-night coffee. The cicadas hummed in the distance, but inside my head there was only one sound, Kayla's voice. "It's not like you'll miss it." The words kept replaying, over and over, until they stopped sounding like a sentence and started feeling like a scar. Inside, I could hear her moving around, maybe pacing, maybe crying. I didn't check. I'd spent too many years running toward her tears. This time, I stayed seated. Mom peeked out once, her voice soft. "Rachel, honey, you okay?" I nodded, lied. Because how do you explain the kind of pain that doesn't bleed, it just stays? I looked up at the stars and wondered how two people could grow up under the same roof and learn such different versions of love. For me, love meant sacrifice. For her, it meant taking without asking. And suddenly, I felt so tired, not the kind sleep fixes, but the kind that comes from realizing you've been running in circles your whole life, trying to earn something that should have been freely given. By midnight, I'd made my decision. No yelling, no lectures, no dramatic confrontations, just silence. Because sometimes silence is louder than anger. Sometimes it's the only language a liar doesn't know how to speak. When I finally went inside, the lights were off, Kayla's door was closed, Mom's and Dad's room was dark, and for the first time I felt completely alone in a house full of people, not abandoned, just finished. The kind of finish that comes before something new has the chance to begin. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the kitchen table like nothing had happened. Mom was humming while flipping pancakes. Dad was reading the paper. And Kayla sat across from me, hair perfect, pretending peace was still an option. "Morning," she said, too brightly. I just looked at her. Her smile flickered. "Coffee?" she asked. I shook my head. "No thanks." The air between us felt fragile, like glass that already knew it was broken. Then I said it. "Mom, Dad, there's something you need to know." Kayla froze. Her fork clinked against her plate. I told them everything. The envelope, the missing money, the receipts, the trip. No anger, just facts. Clean and steady, like a confession that wasn't mine to carry anymore. Mom's hand trembled around her coffee cup. Dad's jaw tightened. "Kayla, tell me this isn't true." But silence was its own answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. "I was going to pay it back. I just wanted to feel normal for once." Dad leaned forward. Kayla, normal doesn't mean stealing from your family. Kayla's eyes filled with tears, and for the first time in my life, I didn't move to comfort her. I just said, "You'll pay every cent back, and until then, you don't get to pretend this never happened." She looked at me like I'd just spoken another language, one she'd never bothered to learn. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. For years, I thought forgiveness meant erasing the damage. Now I knew better. Forgiveness doesn't erase. It defines where the line finally stands. That morning, I drew mine, and it felt like breathing for the first time in years. 2 weeks passed before anything changed. Then one morning, Kayla came downstairs in jeans and a plain t-shirt. No makeup, no gloss, no shine. "I got a job," she said quietly, "at the café on River Street." No one said a word for a few seconds. Dad just nodded. Mom kept stirring her coffee, eyes wet but silent. Every day after that, Kayla left the house before sunrise. The girl who used to sleep till noon now came home smelling of espresso and exhaustion. At first, I didn't believe it would last, but it did. Friday nights, she'd place a small envelope on the kitchen table. Inside, crumpled bills, handwritten notes. $140 this week. $220. Had a good weekend. I never opened them in front of her, just wrote the amount on a sticky note and pinned it to the fridge. The total grew slowly, honestly, like she was rebuilding something, brick by brick. One evening, I found her sitting in the living room, flipping through old family photos. "I forgot how happy we looked," she said softly. "We were," I answered, "until taking became easier than trying." She didn't argue, just nodded. Eyes red but steady. Months later, Mom's surgery was approved. Insurance covered most of it, but not all. I was ready to pay the rest, like always, but Kayla stopped me. "Use what's left in my envelopes," she said. "It's Mom's money anyway." I looked at her then, really looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't see the spoiled little sister. I saw someone trying to become a better version of herself, one bruise at a time. After surgery, Mom came home stronger. Kayla made her tea every night, stayed in, saved up. No more perfume, no more heels, no more pretending. The silence in our house changed too. It wasn't the cold kind anymore. It was calm, clean, earned. Even Dad laughed again. Mom hummed while cooking. And when Kayla placed her next envelope on the counter, she smiled. Small, real, unforced. "It's not much," she said, "but it's honest." And for once, those words didn't sound like an excuse. They sounded like redemption. By spring, the numbers on the fridge told a quiet story. Kayla had repaid every cent. One Sunday morning, she handed me the final envelope, thicker than usual, and a small gift bag wrapped in tissue paper. Inside was a framed photo of us as kids, muddy and smiling, arms wrapped around each other on the old front porch. Beneath it, a note written in her looping handwriting. "Thank you for not saving me. You taught me how to stand." I stared at it for a long time, feeling something shift inside me. Not triumph, not revenge, just release. The kind of peace that doesn't arrive with apologies, but with truth. That night, I took the old floorboard from my room, the one that once hid my savings, my trust, my hope, and placed it beside the photo, not as a reminder of what she took, but of what we finally rebuilt. Sometimes love isn't a rescue. It isn't swooping in to fix the mess or absorb the damage. Sometimes love is the quiet decision to step back and let someone face their reflection, to let them learn what sorry really costs. I used to think silence was empty. Now I know it can be full of boundaries, forgiveness, and a strange kind of grace. If you've ever had to stop fixing someone you love just to save yourself, I get it. Tell me your story in the comments, because healing doesn't always come from getting even. Sometimes it comes from finally letting go. And if you believe that tough love can still be real love, hit subscribe. We all have our own floorboards to lift.